Hello, everyone. So I'm just going to introduce myself. I'm Brogan. I work at JC&Co, which is an outdoor media owner. And this is Sarah. She works for Kinetic, and they're an outdoor specialist. I feel the need to caveat, given the people that we have in the room, that we are not psychologists or professors or anything that impressive, really. We essentially just work in outdoor advertising. But what we have been looking at is how we can utilize all the amazing information that is coming through from behavioral science and how we can use that to incorporate into advertising to essentially get consumers to basically buy more stuff. What we're going to show you today is two different examples of how within our industry that we are doing this in terms of putting behavioral nudges and behavioral science into out-of-home advertising and seeing what effect that has on the advertising in general. So there's two examples that we're going to talk through. I'm going to talk through an example that we did with Cadbury's and what we looked at with that, and then Sarah's going to go on to talk about the more interesting aspect of this, which is where we use behavioral nudges to get people to eat insects. So firstly, this is just an example here of an outdoor panel in general. Outdoor advertising is just all the posters and billboards that you see across the country. We know that these work in general. I think today was a good example about how many of you took selfies outside the poster that was directly opposite when we got off the train today. So we know that outdoor advertising works and communicates with consumers. What we were interested to find out is, can we make this media work harder if we actually apply some behavioral science? So the first thing that we did was work with Cadbury's. Cadbury's decided to run two separate copies, one of which had no behavioral nudges in, and one of which had behavioral nudges in. And then we tracked the sales of their product within the store. So this is a panel outside Tesco's. There are 750 Tesco's stores in the UK, and outside 400 of them, JC&Co has these screens. So what that allowed us to do is outside 200 of them, we ran the non-behavioral-led copy, and outside the other 200, we ran the behavioral copy, and then we physically tracked the sales of Cadbury's Dairy Milk range to see whether or not those behavioral science nudges were coming through in terms of consumer purchasing. So this is the first creative. It's very much a rational creative. It's exactly what FMCG brands do. They put all their products on the poster and then hope that people will buy it. That is what they do. The other poster that they ran was this one. So this was layered with a lot of different behavioral nudges. First of all, we had localization, so each store had the name of the store on the actual ad. Then we also had choice aversions, so we took away all those choices and just gave them one choice, essentially. We also looked at framing, so we know you're mad for Dairy Milk Oreo, so why not try Dairy Milk Caramel? That was actually based on store-by-store data in terms of what the most, the favorite product was versus the least favorite product, so framing those choices in a different way. So like I say, we then looked at these two different approaches and tracked the sales within the store. So first of all, with no out-of-home, that's our index of 100, so that's the sales of the Cadbury's Dairy Milk range in the 350 stores that don't have the screens outside of them. Then what we saw in the ones that had the System 2-led creative, so just the creative that all FMCG brands tend to run, which is, this is our product, go buy it, we saw an 8% increase in sales. Now, with the System 1-led communication, which is obviously had all these behavioral nudges within it, we actually saw a plus 16% increase in sales. So essentially, having those behavioral nudges within the poster doubled the sales effect for a huge brand. This isn't a small effect. This is sales at Tesco's, which is the UK's largest retailer of the leading confectionery brand. So those behavioral nudges leading that range of Cadbury's Dairy Milk to increase by a further 8%. What's also interesting is that we were looking at the whole range, in terms of tracking the whole range, but what we also saw, my slide's not working, But what we also saw essentially was that for all the behavioural-led copies that we looked at, we also looked at how many of them oversold of the secondary product, the product that wasn't doing so well. So not just did we see a doubling of the entire range, but looking particularly at that troubled product, if you were, and 75% of the stores saw an increase, not just in the range, but also of that product that previously really hadn't been selling well within those stores. So that was an example that we did with Cadbury's, and it worked particularly well. And it's something for us as well as out of home with the behavioural nudges that you can use with localization and everything else that is available to you. We really want to encourage other advertisers to obviously use, because the harder the out of home works, the more likely essentially they will be to buy it again. So we also then worked with Grub and Ogilvy and Kinetic in terms of looking at how you can use out-of-home messaging to normalize people's thinking of eating insects within their everyday diet. So Sarah is just going to go on to talk you through what we did with that particular example.
So yeah, the example I'm going to talk about is how we use behavioural science and posters to encourage people to eat insects. So to do this, we partnered with a company called Grub, and we've got Shami, the founder of Grub, here in the audience. And they've got an absolutely brilliant product, which is a protein bar that's made with cricket flour. And there's one of the protein bars in each of your goodie bags, so you'll get a chance to try it later on. But edible insects are actually really, really good for you. They are high in iron, they're high in calcium, they're really, really sustainable to produce, and they're actually eaten in 80% of countries. It's just in the West we've got this Bush-Tucker trial type perception of them. But rationally, they're a fantastic product, but there is this barrier to eating them. So when we were thinking about doing a behavioural science type experiment, they seemed like the perfect product to partner with. So we partnered with Grub, we partnered with Deco, and we partnered with the geniuses at Ogilvy to design a poster campaign for Grub. And we came up with two different posters. So on the left there, we've got our rational ad. This is a classic bit of FMCG advertising. We've got the logo up there, we've got the benefits of the product, we've got a patch shirt, and we've got where it's available. So that was our kind of advertising benchmark there, a really kind of rational, classic bit of FMCG advertising. And then we've got our other ad there, which is our behavioural ad, which we had a number of different nudges embedded into it. And so we worked really closely with Ogilvy to make sure we had the right nudges there. So we had a number of different nudges embedded. I'm going to talk about three in particular. And we had a nudge related to the product, a nudge related to the consumer, and a nudge related to the medium. So ambiguity aversion, that was our nudge related to the product. And we say 2 billion people enjoy insects globally. And that's to help people overcome the fear that this isn't a tried and tested product. It's very much tried and tested. We appealed to consumers' egos by saying, you can be the first. And then one of the brilliant things about outdoor advertising is it can be adapted, it can be tailored to its environment, to its context. So we say, you can be the first in W1, and that postcode was tailored to where the poster was up. So we embedded a number of different nudges into our poster, and we did a bit of a small-scale experiment. This product is stocked in Planet Organic, and there's only a handful of them in London. So we put this ad up in proximity to two stores. We put the rational ad up in proximity to a separate 2 stores. And then we had a couple of stores that didn't have any advertising up whatsoever. And we tracked sales across 6 weeks. And these are the results here. So on the far left, you can see the sales for a store where there was no advertising up whatsoever. In the middle, the sales from the stores where we had our rational ad up. That's our advertising benchmark. And then on the right, the sales from the store where we had our behavioural ad up. Now, it was a small-scale test, but the results are very, very compelling and very, very encouraging. And they just show by using nudge theory, by using behavioural science, our clients can make their advertising work a lot harder. And the point of this is that advertising has been thinking about and talking about behavioural science for years and years and years now. But there's still a lot of rational ads out there. So we're working really, really closely with some of our clients like L'Oreal and Subway and News UK to use nudge theory either within the creative or within their strategy to make their campaigns work harder. Most importantly, make them more efficient, make them work harder for no additional cost for them. And one area we're particularly interested in at the moment is using point-of-sale advertising, like this poster here, like we saw for Grub and Cadbury's. So using that point-of-sale advertising and blending that with the learnings from menu engineering to make those classic FMCG ads work even harder. So if you are interested in that area, please give me a shout. But there you go, it's just a couple of examples, a couple of the campaigns we've been working on where we've been using the learnings from this amazing field to get more value for our clients.
The end.